Firstly, I would like to ask you what is the difference between a Harvard campus versus a KGP campus?
Yeah, the way I would explain Harvard is, and I'm explaining this in the context of, how one would look at an IIT, right? I think for the benefit of just making comparables, I would say the first thing is just the infra, right? It's located in Boston, which is, in my opinion, one of the best cities in the US. It's not mad like New York, and it's not vacant like most of the US. And it's a beautiful city. Beautiful city. Winters are a bit painful, but the city is beautiful. Second thing is the campus itself is the beneficiary of a fund that is upwards of $50 billion. Like, it's a massive amount of money. So everything that the campus does in terms of making infra available is of the highest quality.
Howard has I think it has the largest endowment in the world. So, of course, there is a lot of funding, a lot of money pouring in for campus development, different activities. So, I mean, of course, in terms of infra and everything, it was far, far superior than what it was at IIT Kharagpur. Like, okay, for example, in IIT Kharagpur, we had like a small dorm room that we were staying in. In Howard, we had like a massive two-bed apartment, two-story apartment that we were staying in. The classrooms. I mean, like, I kid you not, like, just to tell you how like it seems near perfect. Like, it genuinely feels like you're living in a bubble for 2 years. I remember even the lawns in Howard, they were like absolutely at any point of time perfectly cut, and there would be like, tiny squirrels and rabbits roaming around in them, and even they would, like, we would joke, okay, these squirrels also have a selection process of who will come into Howard. So there it's like, I think one important thing that you pick up there is the level of perfection and detail that they put into anything and everything, whether it's organizing an event, how they take care of the campus. It shows like they are kind of indirectly sending you this message of the kind of benchmarks you're supposed to have in life about everything that you do.
So impeccable perfection is the word that you would use to define. Like, if you were to look at a lawn or a door, or even the way after a class the cleaner would come and clean the blackboard, there is zero error in the way the operations of the place operate. And this is the physical space that you occupy. Now, about the students, the in one regard that it's very different from an IIT is that no matter what people say about IIT, it is still a very small sliver of the population of India, right? These are more often than not people from middle income backgrounds who come from families that value education a lot, are really hardworking, and had the financial resources to send their kids to coaching. Now, once you apply so many filters, you're left with still hundreds of millions of people, but they are still the same. They can be in Odisha or West Bengal or Uttarakhand or Kerala, but they're still the same in the ethos. Harvard is very different. So our class had around 990 students. They are from, I don't know, 100 countries maybe. My own section had people from 45 countries. Each one of them comes from very, very different backgrounds. The only thing that is common to them is the assessment that the admissions committee had, that they represented some form of excellence and made it worthy for Harvard to select them to get to the class. Now, uh, if I were to explain the difference in spectrum, I would put it this way: that you have people who are in your class who spend their early childhood in, uh, they were homeless and they were in shelters, to people who are refugees of war, to people who have, against all odds, finished their education, to people who are even billionaires, and everybody occupies that same space. I think what that does is it truly puts your own journey into context.
You have to strive for perfection, you have to strive for something big, dream big. I think that is something which is evident in every small act. Like, I'll give you an example, right? So in Harvard, I would say there are three broad components to your life there. One is your academic life, second is your social life, and third is your own personal life, right? And I would relate academic life to Harvard is basically teaching you how you should behave within the boardroom and outside the boardroom in a way. Because as part of academics, it was pretty rigorous at Harvard compared to the other business schools. So for Harvard, for every class, you have to prepare a case and come. And you have to prepare the case and come because there is the professor can call upon anyone in class to talk about it, right? So it's called like a cold call. So you have to be attentive, you have to come prepared, you have to keep listening to what your peers in the class are saying because you have to engage in conversation throughout the duration of the class. So very similar to how you would behave in a boardroom, right? And at the same time, like even the way you would see professors conduct themselves, like I remember my finance professor, he had been the head of Bain Capital Europe, right? Big short guy. The way he would come to class, like the way he would be dressed, the way he would carry himself, like there are like such small nuances you would keep picking up from your professors, your batchmates, everyone who was on campus.
In HBS, attendance is mandatory, and there is a note taker that takes down notes on everything that has been said in class. And none of the classes are lectures, so it's not like the professor is going to come and write something on the board. The class starts with a question, and the question can be to anyone. And because you don't know, because it can be to anyone, you have to come prepared. And by preparation, I mean you have to read a 20-page case, do the math, answer the questions, build a point of view, and communicate all of that in less than 90 seconds. So it's almost like you don't know if you will be called, so you end up preparing. And because everybody is preparing, you end up preparing, and then it just sort of sets in this motion, a wheel where you need to go to class prepared. And I think again in this regard, it's very different from an IIT where 70% attendance में काम चल सकता है, or maybe even उससे कम में चल सकता है. That doesn't apply there. If you miss classes for 3 days, you will get an email from the professor saying, Saumaric, I haven't seen you in class. Is everything okay? Right? You can't just get up from the class and go to the loo.
Yeah.
You cannot leave the class just like that. You cannot just go and walk
Yeah.
out and get a coffee and come.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. And so, given that in a way they have set the contract for you, they've said, we've given you the best infra, we've given you professors who, let's say in our case, my finance professor was a guy who had also a Harvard alum, set up his own hedge fund, sold it for $300 million, and now came back to teach finance to students. So he's not just anyone who's talking to you about finance. He has done it, made his money, and he is the upper echelon of people who practice that craft. And so learning from them, it's not just the technicalities, they'll teach you a lot about the software elements as well. And that's how the academics is structured.
Even beyond the academic life, I would say the social life was far more intense at Harvard. In fact, like every day you would have at least 2 to 3 social events on your calendar, and it genuinely gets to a point where this FOMO is a very big common term at Harvard, wherein you're fretting out that, oh my god, if I miss this social event then what will happen and all of it. And it's like a mix of different kind of social events. Some are massive parties, some are small group dinners, in some cases you are hosting people at your home. And I feel these are some things, especially Indians, I feel we tend to take it for granted, but building your social capital is very important. It's not just about how you behave inside the boardroom, but the kind of social connections, network, relationships you build outside the boardroom is also super important. And in a way, how I would say Howard really trained me in, okay, how do I be a good host, or how do I engage with people from different backgrounds, different countries? And that's something which you don't realize. You think you're just having fun, but that learning is happening even when you are in different parties, different trips, and all of it. And yeah, I would say those were the major components. I would say first year we didn't really get time to think about our personal life. In fact, because in Harvard was the first time that Somrik and I were living together. We had never really lived together before that. HBS was the first time we did. But initially we would barely get time just for each other because there was always so much happening. But I think towards your second year, like just how every business executive has to figure out how to balance your professional life with your social life and your personal life, you figure that out. So I think, yeah, that's how that trajectory played out.
I think non-academics is also very, I would say, fluid but intense. You choose what you engage in, but whatever you choose to do, it is intense, be it parties or travel. So for us, Aditi and I, we were in Boston, but we ended up traveling to all the states around Massachusetts, but also to Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guatemala, Brazil,
Japan,
Japan,
South Africa,
South Africa,
Spain.
and Spain.
We must be missing something.
And yeah, we probably missed out some other stuff as well. So it is intense, it is expensive, but it is worth the time. And especially I think our context was slightly different because you won't really have a lot of couples there. uh, we were the only other Indian couple on campus. I think the only married Indian couple on campus in the same batch, and so uh, we still had an option to disconnect from everything that was happening and still have each other. And another benefit of that is, given that we had known each other for from 2011 till 2021 when we actually went into HBA. So there's a lot of context. So you have a very good support system. We ended up building some amazing friends as well.
I think this was something which was new for me also, right? Because Harvard was one place where I really got to form friendships with a lot of folks from other countries. And
Yeah.
you realize, okay, you're very different, but you do have some value systems which are common. Uh, and that I think is something which I think was a big learning for me, that you can be from very different backgrounds, but you can still form really strong, close friendships.
And I think people also, I mean, now that our friends at HPS, when they have their weddings, so let's say
Yeah.
our wedding, we had people flying from Chile, US,
US, Japan.
Japan, and a bunch of other countries.
Yeah.
People braved all odds of
Yeah.
getting COVID and still flew to
Yeah.
Dehradun where our wedding was. We do the same when
Hmm.
people get married. So let's say Aditi flew to Chile, to Korea,
Yeah.
to attend weddings of our friends and so on. And sometime last year I had a bunch of my friends fly into India and I took them around Kerala, and people flew in from all over the world. A small group of 10 people from the US, Korea, Saudi, Indonesia, and so on. They all flew in, and so people also value that element.